Hi everyone, I'm Emma Clark, and one highly important thing you should know about me is that I love macaroni cheese. I mean, I don't just like it, I love it. On my recent trip home, I made my mum make it for me twice in the 2 weeks I was there. I brought some back to Sydney with me, which is where I live, by the way, and if someone was to propose to me, I'd seriously be quite happy with this. Another thing you should know about me is I'm no big shot who's going to preach to you on what you can and can't do. Everything I'm offering today is just my opinion, so feel free to take it or leave it. I've seen a lot of presentations, as I'm sure you have, and coming from a millennial, I think my advice offers some basic rules for making sure people don't get bored. But I think being bored is no longer just a symptom of a show like Downton Abbey. Slide Rocket did a study which says 32% of people have fallen asleep in a presentation, and ironically I just used that statistic to catch your attention. So you might already be thinking, I'm bored, get to the point. So if I'm right, here is a quick visual, because our brains love visuals. So use cool ones in presentations, get creative, get someone from your office with a moderate sense of style to okay it. This one displays some trendy cotton plant with a stopwatch icon to point out that the average consumer attention span is 8 seconds. Meanwhile, goldfish are believed to have a span of 9 seconds, so well done humans. So, because your mind might already be drifting towards that Netflix show from last night, we need to consider your message is only as good as your ability to share it. So let's think about that for a moment. Your message is only as good as your ability to share it. In other words, there is no point in putting all those hours into that presentation or report if you're going to share it in a baffling way. I think it dismisses the work that's gone into it, and taking into account our minute attention spans, the key is to be succinct. So you might be thinking, okay, but how? Well, here's what I'm going to go through today. Here are my 3 tips to a good report or presentation. I hope I've practiced what I'm preaching. A little bit of pressure for me to deliver, what with the topic, but anyway. First up, simple structure. So the structure that has worked for me is to start the presentation with a hook and to end with a recap. So I threw in an icon of a dude with an afro just in case I'd already lost your attention. The hook needs to be attention grabbing, and the more bizarre the better. It should make you, as well as your audience, feel comfortable in what can be a nerve-wracking moment. I start today by telling you of my love for macaroni cheese, quite a personal and bizarre statement that might have caught your attention. As long as you can tie your hook into the content of your presentation or report, then you remain both interesting and relevant. In between the hook and the recap, you tell the story. So to find the right place to start, consider what people in the audience already know about your subject and how much they care about it. Don't lose them by using jargon straight away or, on the other end, stating the obvious. The recap is like a conclusion in an essay. So you recap what you've discussed, because humans forget easily. So you might be thinking that's obvious, but it's really easy to exclude the hook or the recap for fear of going over time. And that goes to my second tip for you today, which is I think it's important to only use simple slides. I'll push the boat out here. I think it's important to have no more than 3 distinct points on one page. How many people have sat through a presentation where there's been a lot of text on the slide, and moreover, the text is different to what the presenter is speaking? So not only are we expected to read all the text, but also to listen to what conflicting info is being thrown at us. In presentations, keep it to 3 points and make sure you read what's on the slide. In reports, still keep it to 3 points. Any more than that, and our brains get discombobulated. Which leads me on to another point. Keep the vocab simple. No one wants ABC as easy as prudential regulation. You can use simple language without compromising on the depth of the topic. So I'm going to show you an example of this. I'm going to show you a slide from a report for 8 seconds, and I want to see what you can take from it. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Great. So the timing might be slightly off of the presentation, but here we go for the second one. I'm going to show you another one from a report for 8 seconds. See what you can take from this one. Great. So which did you find more interesting or easier to interpret? Or moreover, which did you find approachable? I mean, you can tell me that you found the cluttered first slide easier to interpret. If your client really, really wants the detail, fine, put it in the appendix. But for the base report, keep it to 3 points per page. Otherwise, your message will be lost. And I'm sure you, as well as I, am a bit depressed when you see a report with like font size 9, and worse still, it's in Tahoma, and it's everywhere, and it's cluttered and not aligned, and it's all over you like a sick pigeon on your kebab. And you can see the amount of work that has gone in, but unfortunately, the reality is the message is lost. And who enjoys seeing 5 quotes in tiny speech bubbles? Single them out and blow them out big so that people actually read them. Personalize them by indicating who provided the quote, if you can, to provide context. Don't get me wrong, Tahoma isn't so bad. I was just playing to one of my favorite literary devices, which is humor. And that's another thing that keeps people tuned in. I hope at least. Anyway, so my final tip, the millennials who are still tuned in will be happy that this is the last point. Shown and experienced. Now this is pretty cool and useful. So some random study by John Whitmore explored recall after 3 weeks and recall after 3 months. So recall after 3 weeks, when someone was just told something, was 70%. If they were told it, shown it, and experienced it, that recall increased to 85%. Compare that to recall after 3 months. If someone was just told something, it was as low as 10%, and that dramatically increases to 65% when they're told it, shown it, and experienced it. So to test this, anyone who wants to take part, put a little appointment in your calendar for 3 months from now to email me. My email is on the final slide. And just tell me what you remember from this webinar, because today I've told you, in other words, I've talked you through each of these tips. I've shown you examples of each of these tips with visuals. And I've had you experience it by testing you. Obviously, there are more creative ways you can have people experience your presentation. For example, if you're presenting on a new McDonald's product, consider actually serving it to your audience and then talking through the specifics of the flavors consumers liked or disliked. I think nothing ever becomes real until it's experienced. And now for the recap. So, my 3 S's are: keep a simple structure, always have simple slides, and make sure your ideas are shown and experienced. Because your message may have a lot of power, but you need to make sure it is powerful. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble. I really hope I didn't bore you, as that would defeat the point, and I hope it was useful.